My name's Michael, and this is All Department.
Here come the cherries, and we're heading for the top of the tree. Bournemouth is a team that's going to show Division 3. Here come the leaders and the scorers at the Saturday, showing how to win the Southern way. So we sing, come on Bournemouth, come on Bournemouth. While you're out there winning, hear the shouting and the singing. We sing, come on Bournemouth, come on Bournemouth. Here come the cherries, here come the cherries, here come the cherries, number one.
Hello and welcome to All Departments. It's been a wonderful year at Dean Court, and being top of the tree at Christmas is a gift none of us were expecting. He may have hung up his boots in 2012, but club legend Steve Fletcher has been enjoying our meteoric rise as much as anyone. I caught up with Fletcher a few days ago, where he gave his thoughts on our recent success and talked about what he's up to these days at the club he loves. Fletcher, welcome to All Departments.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So, we're sitting here 3 days before Christmas. Eddie was asked about whether the players would have drinks on the way home from Blackpool on Saturday, and soon debunked that thought from Chris Temple's interview. But Christmas must be a bit different for you these days now you're not playing.
Very much so, and I can understand why Eddie dismissed those reports. It's just an absolute no-no for any of the boys to even contemplate having a drink. It's one thing he's implemented massively since he's been here as manager. Under no circumstances will the boys be, having anything to drink. If we win on a Saturday and there's no other game till the following Saturday, I don't think he'd mind too much if the boys had a couple of drinks here and there. But there's such a big period coming up. I think I can imagine his face when Chris asked him the question. He wanted to kill him, but massive period for myself to be out watching games while everybody else is a couple of weeks off or whatever, or at least a few days off. I'll get Christmas Day probably, and that's it, because Boxing Day I'll be out at a game on the 28th or 29th, the 2nd, the 4th, travelling around the country, so very busy time. I mean, I'm sure I'll get the odd afternoon off here and there. The gaffer will be fine with us, but it's a busy period for us scouts because the January transfer window coming up. We can't leave a stone unturned really, and when January comes, I'll probably maybe get a few days to myself. At the end of January, when the transfer window comes to an end, is when I might take a couple of days off, because really been constant since came back at the beginning of July.
But you can relax a bit more probably on Christmas Day in terms of your diet. You can have
from that
more
perspective,
turkey and a couple more drinks, I would have thought.
Do you know what? You become so institutionalised. I remember last year was the first year that I didn't have to worry about having a drink, and we went to the mother-in-law's for dinner, and I drove. I think it's just inbred in you, I mean, New Year's Eve, I went to a party and I had a few, but once again I was travelling New Year's Day to a game up north, and I had about 5 or 6 drinks, and I stopped about 12:30, 1 o'clock, because I knew I had to be up and left the house by about 10 o'clock the next day. So once again it's something that I did for 24 years, and you just you can't switch off or switch it off that easy, and it's just inbred in you. And I mean, there will be time comes, maybe 10 years' time, where I forget all that. But at the moment, Christmas will be... It's great, the fact that I don't have to worry if I want an extra slice of turkey, or Mrs. pulls a trifle out the fridge and I've second helpings, that type of thing. But otherwise, I still not prepare myself, but I still mentally have thoughts within me that, from a professional footballer's level, and no, I shouldn't have that, or no, I won't drink that. And my missus always says to me, relax, you can do what you want. I'm like, yeah, you say that, but it's not as easy to switch off.
Christmas means work for you, whereas for most people it means relaxing, doesn't it? And so these days is it head of European scouting?
No, head of UK recruitment. Head of UK recruitment, ambassador, and a bit of everything else when the gaffer gets me in training, which has been quite a lot lately, to help out. And it can be to join in with sessions, it could be to help the forwards, stand there as just a body, an extra man to help, manpower. helping putting cones out, whatever. But I love doing that because, you know, I jump at the chance. If the gaffer says to me, Fletcher, I need you in training this morning, comes and knocks on the door at 9:30, you know, a little scouting office, you know, I'm buzzing. But I have got a job to do as head of recruitment. But that, you know, the next best thing is to be out on the field with the players, because that's what I did for so long, over half my life. And so yeah, a bit of everything really, but officially head of recruitment and ambassador.
So do you have a typical working day, or is it quite varied?
It can be varied. You know, my ambassador role, I love it. It takes me to, you know, all corners of the spectrum really. One day I could be at a school doing a little chat with children and taking Cherry Bear in, doing a ticketing scheme to get them to come to the games. The next time I could be speaking in front of the businessmen here at the AFC Business. We have Rob Mitchell organises it, and I've spoken to big CEOs of companies and people who are not really familiar with football, but I try to talk about how we work as a football club, where we've come from. You know, in the end of the day, you can compare, well, not just football, but any sport, team sports, and especially if you're doing well, into any job really, because it's a team effort. Everybody's got to pull their own weight. So I usually get asked a couple of questions and then I elaborate on them. And then the next day I could be doing a charity event or taking someone for a tour around the stadium. It's very diverse, and I love that side of it. You know, I like interacting with people, and I always have been a bit of a spokesman here, especially in the last maybe 10 years, because of my longevity at the club really. It's something I like doing. You know, I like doing commentating. I've done a lot of TV appearances, and I've done a lot of summarising on Sky Sports and things, so I do like to speak about the club. I like to speak about football, but now I've incorporated a different side of it to my speeches now, because just for instance I went to Wimborne Town a couple of weeks ago. They opened a new part of the clubhouse there, and I just did a long speech, and people come to me and said, it was an inspirational speech, and I talked about the things we do here, how you've got to have belief in where they want to be, and I just rabbited on for about 15 minutes, and a lot of people come up to me afterwards, and I've had people come up and say, you know, you should do it professionally, but I think then you'd have to almost give up the job I'm here and go and speak, you know, and learn how to do it, and I don't want to do that. I just like doing the thing I do, and people are saying, oh, you can make a lot of money out of it. That's not for me really. I like speaking about the club. I like talking to the kids at schools, and I get more out of it just doing it as part of my ambassador role than if I was going to go off and do after dinner speaking or promotional speaking. You know, I don't want to do things like that. Not yet anyway. I'm happy doing it all for the football club.
And in terms of your job in recruitment, I get the impression that these days the approach to recruitment is quite lengthy and detailed. I remember hearing you describe your wooing many years ago by Tony Pulis, and he drove you around a bit, showed you the town, and then eventually brought you down to Dean Court. I'd imagine these days it's a lot. There's a lot more to it than that.
Just a bit, yeah. Yeah, first and foremost, you've got to find a player that you think can fit into the ethos and the philosophy of the football club. Now I go around scouting the country 2-3 times a week, and you do, the scouts sit together. I try to keep myself a little bit more independent and say hello and, you know, say what I have to be nice and friendly to them, but at the end of the day I don't want to be sat down chatting about players, because I don't want anyone to know what I'm looking at. And sometimes it's an eye-opener when you hear them talking. It's like, wow, you're in a little group, you shouldn't be saying things. I don't know if I said things I shouldn't, or talked about players I'm looking at, or thinking about bringing to the football club, or trying to bring to the football club, and the gaffer found out I was telling other people, I think he would sack me on the spot. So I find it, you know, I find it very, very amusing, I suppose, to listen to some scouts just chat away and tell each other who's doing well, what they've seen over the last few weeks. So I keep myself to myself and be polite and say the right things, but never let anything out the bag. You can't do that. I think you've got to be really secretive. So first and foremost, you've got to find a player, and I have people come up to me all the time saying, he's doing well, why don't we get him? You can imagine Twitter, places like that, people are direct messaging me all the time, you should be looking at this player, and thinking, well, yeah, but geezer's on 30 grand a week. I mean, it's just, the people don't think before they tell you about players. And also the type of player, you know, people say, oh, he's a good defender, blah, 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 he heads it and kicks it and wins everything, and I'm thinking, well, yeah, but if he can't handle a ball, I can't look at him because he wouldn't fit into the way we like to play at Bournemouth. So in some respects it's hard to recruit for our team, even more so in the position we're in, because you've got to be a specific type of player, you've got to be a good footballer, you've got to be able to technically be, adapt on the ball. And in other respects it can be quite easy, because then specifically I know the type of player I'm looking for. But I can get told about players and so-and-so is doing well, and you go and watch them and you think, yeah, he is, and he will be for somebody, but not for us. So it's easy to narrow them down as just trying to find them type of players who can come in and replace or at least challenge the players that we've got, and that's difficult in itself.
And it must be quite rewarding when a transfer reaches its conclusion. We signed a few in the summer: Dan Gosling, Junior Stanislas, Callum Wilson.
Yeah.
But there also must be an aspect of frustration when, and this is probably what we don't hear about because it's kept in-house, when we miss out on players.
Yeah, it is hard. It's probably the hardest part of the job. Sometimes you believe in a player as a person, so and then you present him to the manager, and if he doesn't quite like him, you've done a lot of due diligence on the player, a lot of hard work, many, not just hours, days, weeks even. That's not just going to watch him, that's putting the presentation together and clipping the footage on him and find out about his personal life, everything you do. But that's part and parcel of the game. You've got to take the rough with the smooth, and I'm not every player that the scouting department represents or presents to the gaffer. If he signed every single one of them, we'd have 50 players in the team. It's not going to happen. It's just basically on to the next one then, and can't take it personally. It's just the way it is, and what you might like, somebody else might like, but then the manager might not, and vice versa. So yeah, there's a lot goes into it, and it is rewarding. At the end of the day, we do the presentation, the gaffer sees what he likes, and we go back to it. He's so meticulous, the gaffer. He's got to be sure in his own mind, especially if you're spending good money. Never mind the wages, but even just the transfer fees for a club like ours, it's imperative that we find the right person and we're 100% on him. And then obviously the gaffer has got to get that player in with the chief exec and sell the club to him, along with the video footage we've put together. We try and make the package so inviting for the player. I think the good attraction here is you're going to play good football, and you're in a fantastic place in the country to live. But the way we play football, the manager we've got, and the infrastructure we're trying to put together, that's our big selling point, really. So when we get someone like Callum Wilson, I worked all season on him, really, or at least 3/4 of that season. I watched every game he played. I'd watched 4 or 5 live. I'd watched all the rest on the system we have at the club, all his other games. And it still could have went either way, you don't know, because Callum could have come down and went, thank you, but no thank you. And you're like, wow, we have as a group, put a lot of effort in, almost 2/3, 3/4 of a season. And that's just the way it is. And thankfully, Callum did sign, and it's fabulous. You almost want to, shout from the mountaintops, because it's fabulous. But then again, the player's got to come and produce. So it's all right bringing the player in, but if he doesn't produce, then it can come back to bite you in the backside. And thankfully, Callum is a shining example of us as a scouting department doing our homework, putting a good presentation together, and the manager and the coaching staff doing the rest to bring that player to the football club. And he's gone on as a shining light at this present time, touch wood.
And are you involved with any of the loaning the players out to other clubs? We have quite a few from the development squad go out on loan, particularly locally, and then we might see 1 or 2 who are involved in the first team but maybe aren't necessarily getting in the matchday squad going out on loan. Do you get involved in any of that?
Basically no. Not really. I mean, the manager might come to us as a group when we have a meeting and just ask our opinion, what we think. But when you bring players in, you can't not let other players go out and play. You've got to have them playing, simple as that. So the manager decides on that, what's good for the player. He might ask us about that club he's thinking about sending a player to, but at the end of the day, it's between the owner, the chief exec, and the manager and the assistant manager where the players go to. Like I say, he might ask our advice a little bit or come to us with a few questions, but at the end of the day, I think that's the manager's side of things. Our side is obviously then bringing loan players in, or because it's not just about signing players, it can be loan players. I know we don't loan a lot of players here. We don't have a lot of loan players in as well. But that's just the gaffer's way. He doesn't want a team full of loan players, and for me, absolutely right. Every manager's different, but I think Eddie likes the fact that majority, if not all, players are here, and he can work with them and bring them to be good players. I mean, there's an odd exception. I mean, Andrew Sermon, for instance, but he was here for a season-long loan. It was different with a view. We knew we could maybe have an option of buying him or have a chance of buying him.
We've got the goalkeeper as well.
Yeah, I mean, goalkeepers are a different side of things, really. But hopefully, Arthur's going to be here, touch wood, till the end of the season, and I think the monthly loans or the 2 or 3 months, unless it was an absolute emergency, I don't think really. The gaffer, I might be wrong, but I don't think the gaffer would really try not to entertain that.
Just going back to the process of recruitment, you said you spent 2/3, 3/4 of a season on the Callum Wilson transfer.
Yeah.
At what point do you actually get to speak to the player or even the player's agent? Do you do that early on, or do you watch them for quite a while first?
I think you got to watch them for a while first. Listen, there's some players who can grab you within one game. I've watched games, and within 45 minutes I'm thinking, wow, I could walk away from this game already and phone the gaffer up and say, I've got you a player. But you can't be as naive as that. Stupid as well, because he might just have had a one-off game. So you have to go back and watch him. You watch him again live. Obviously, you have to see where he's at. Geographically around the country, I can't be going up to North every single time he plays, so I've got to try and catch him when he's down here as well. And we have a system where we can watch most of his games. So, if there's 4 or 5 of us scouts, and I come back and say, right, we need a player. We need to watch this player. He's decent. And we can all watch 2 or 3 games on him in a day. You've covered 15 games, and then we come together and we collaborate and say, right, what do you think of him? Yes or no? Yeah, there's something to grab onto. Then we go back and watch more games. So we can cover a lot between us. It's time consuming, but if you've got a player you're really interested in, I think you have to put the hard work into him. So of Callum, for instance, we knew he was scoring goals early on in Coventry. So we went out and watched him, liked him, watched him again, and different scouts. We only have 4 or 5, but we all watched him at different times live, and then the rest of the time on the system we have here at the football club, which is great because you can almost get to see any player in the world, in any country, in any club, within 48 hours of him playing a game, which is a fabulous tool to have. And then you've got to start, maybe then, after you've watched him 3 or 4 times, think we really like him, get in touch with the agent. Obviously, during this time we would speak to the manager, make sure he's happy for us to do that, because if it's an agent he's particularly very close with, it might be the fact that the gaffer would rather speak to him. But as long as the manager's happy about it, and he usually is, he wants us to interact with agents, because it's part and parcel of finding out about the player. But there's all other things you've got to do in between. I mean, an agent's going to tell you what he wants about his player. He's not going to say bad things about him, is he? So you've got to phone around and find out of ex-players, managers, coaches about the player if you really like him, because you need to know about also all sides of that player. You can't just turn around and say, oh, he's a great player, but there's a problem. What if he's a bad lad in the changing room, and you don't want to bring that into your environment. So you do phone around and do your homework. You have to. The more opinions, the better. I mean, that goes without saying, because you got 3 or 4, 5, 6 bad opinions on a player. It doesn't matter how good he is. You have to go around the manager and say, look, I've heard this about the player, or heard that. It's going to put him off having him. It doesn't matter how good the player is. So there's a lot of different aspects go into bringing a player. It's not just, oh, there he is, he's decent, let's watch him, right, let's buy him or make an offer. No, we have to do our homework.
It's a big job these days. Just going back to the end of your career, I mean, you've been doing this role for, I guess, about 18 months now. I was at the Liverpool game on Wednesday night, and you came out and did a little interview with Kelly Summers on the side of the pitch, and the North Stand, which is named after you, obviously, did the old Steve Fletcher song, which you probably haven't heard for a while. Players always say they miss the banter in the dressing room the most when they finish playing, but you must miss the crowd singing your name. It's not an experience everybody has. like a normal person like myself, I don't get people singing my name. But I was there the day at Tranmere when we must have sang your name for 10 minutes after you came on.
Yeah, that was brought tears to my eyes.
That was your final game
when I was on the pitch.
Yeah, you must miss that a lot.
Of course you do. It's the biggest thing you miss. It's the biggest thing. The banter is the football side of it in the changing room, and it's because something that's taken away from you straight away. That changing room environment is difficult. Listen, the biggest thing you miss most is playing. Simple as that. And the second biggest thing for me is not adulation, because you don't want I want to be loved. It's nothing to do with that. But for 20 odd years, you've had people singing your name, and it's fantastic. It's something you miss, and it makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and you take that out of anyone's life. It doesn't matter whether it's someone singing your name or doing whatever. It's hard, and there's nothing better than when someone texts me from when I'm at an away game, and texts me, and it's happened a few times since I've retired, and said, someone started your chant off in the Steve Fletcher stand during the game, and he texts me and says, we're all singing your name for, 20, 30 seconds, and that's brilliant. I mean, I'm not even at the game, I'm probably 300 miles away somewhere, and, it's happened a few times, and of course it does. It makes you feel absolutely superb about yourself. And, I was doing the interview with Kelly for the Bournemouth website, and the fans started singing my name, and, it brings it all back, doesn't it? You're like, wow, you don't ever want that to go away, and it will go away, of course it will. But while I'm still synonymous with the club and around the place, I have such a good rapport with the fans. It's not I want to keep my face in, it's nothing to do like that, but you do miss them moments when you think, they could be singing my name, or I could be out walking on the pitch with the boys and being around it. Of course you miss it, because you had it for so long.
There's things like the thrill, obviously, of scoring a goal. It might not be necessarily a goal in a really big game, but any goal, that sort of thing must be impossible to replace in your everyday life once you finish playing.
Yeah, it is, and it's hard to describe to people who've not been in that position. And people say, what's the best feeling in the world? And they always compare it to the SEX word. Scoring a goal in the last minute, 1,000 times better. Sorry to my wife.
She won't listen to this, don't worry.
Of course, it's the best feeling in the world, mate. It's just like, wow. And I'm never gonna get that again. Scoring a goal at Littledown on a Thursday night in five-a-side is not quite going to compare to scoring a goal against Grimsby in 2009. I'll never ever be able to replicate that, and no matter how long I live, nothing will really come close. I think the only thing that comes close is the birth of your children, and I'll have to say wedding day, obviously. Apart from that, no. Listen, if I win the Euro Millions, maybe I might say, right, that's right up there with scoring a goal in the last minute, but no, nothing will compare.
So how do you fill the gap that leaves? Like we talked about, the fans singing your name, the end of your playing career, and obviously everything that goes with that, like the scoring the goals and the glory that you have or have had from time to time. Because, you announce your retirement, and something you've probably thought about for a long time, and then the next day that is then over. Yeah. And you've had 18 months now, and you said you still adjusting to relaxing at Christmas. Yeah. So the whole kind of, I suppose, emotional adjustment must be quite significant.
I think everyone's different. Everyone will deal with it in their own way. And how many players have we seen fall to pieces? And we've seen some terrible stories over the years where people just can't handle it, and got to keep yourself occupied. I understand that side of it. You can't just... It's different because I was never a Premier League player on thousands and thousands of pounds a week, so I'm still paying my mortgage. I've got a big mortgage, I've got bills to pay, and 2 children, a family to look after. So I think the players who maybe have got millions of pounds put in the bank and then they do nothing from being football, they find it hard to adjust. For me, I've just got to get my head down and work hard, and I'm still in football that I love, but nothing can replace it, and it is difficult. There is times, I just think, wow, where did it go? And I sit and contemplate, and I get myself not upset, but I get myself a little bit down. But I think then I snap out of it and go, right, I've got to go and watch a game, I've got to watch a play, I've got to do something and present someone to the gaffer, I've got things to do. So that's why I said to you about getting in training earlier on, you know, when the gaffer invites me into training, it's like, yes, I know I'm not back in the squad, but at least I'm out there with the lads and, you know, where I feel I belong at times, or I have done for over 20 years. So everyone's different, everyone deals with it in their own way, and it isn't easy, because you become institutionalised in football, live in a bubble, and you never think that bubble's going to burst. And me more than most, because I lasted till I was nearly 41. I was 2 months off my 41st birthday. So, you know, you're thinking you're going to play forever. You know for a fact you're not. You know, your heart's telling you you will, your head's telling you you're not. But it's hard. I just, like I say, keep yourself occupied and try and give yourself other goals in life to do. So, you know, I concentrate on now bringing the best players possible to this football club and having an impact in that way, because you've got to set yourself goals, because your goals every time you're a player is, right, first goal is you've got to get on that team sheet every week. Your next goal as a striker is probably to try and score, or from my perspective, set a goal up at least and win. And then it's on to the next game, and it's just repetitive like that, and that's the way it is in football. Now I've got to set myself other goals and dreams and ambitions. It's difficult, because will I be doing this job in 10 years' time? Who knows? Will I be doing it in 2 years' time? Who knows? You know, something else could come along within the club, hopefully. You just never know. Now you're out of football, you just never know what's around the corner. I mean, you never know what's around the corner in football sometimes. Playing for one team 1 minute, the next week you're somewhere else. But even more so in this job, because, you know, it's there's no long contracts, nothing like that. You're not secure. So there's that worry as well. I sound depressive, don't I?
No, not really. And obviously you're in I wouldn't say it was a unique position, but an unusual position in that your status at the club has grown due to, like you said, your longevity, and you're part of the fabric of the club now. And I guess, I'm sure your answer to this would be yes. You've been very lucky in that your career as a player has ended, but you've been able to stay at the club that you love, and you know you haven't had to deal in some ways with that separation from football that a lot of players do. One thing I did want to ask you about was, and you mentioned how things could change. You had a little taste of management when you were the assistant manager with Lee Bradbury. Is that something that still appeals to you?
Listen, maybe I do maybe. You know, I look at some managers, some teams, and I think what I've learnt and experienced in the 10 months I had as assistant manager, I mean, if I could go back and change a lot of it, yeah, of course you would. I think I'd do that in my football career, never mind anything else. But I did enjoy it. Different types of pressures, massive pressures. So, you know, you can never say no in football. You know, if someone come along with the right offer and it was the right thing to do, you'd have to think about it. But I'm not thinking about it at the moment, 100% not, because I want to stay at the Bomb Football Club. And going back, yeah, I was lucky enough to stay here for such a long time, but you know, I put a lot of effort into that as well. Thankfully I had managers who wanted me here, and obviously with being very close personally to the manager Eddie, you know, he wanted me to stay at the football club, because he could have said, look, you know, Fletcher, we're not going to offer you a contract and there's nothing else for you at the football club. Could have easily happened, couldn't it? And then God knows where to be right now. But I did enjoy my time as assistant manager. It was difficult, obviously after the euphoria of getting into the playoffs that season, and then losing a lot of players, selling a lot of players, and really having to build a team again. But yeah, you can never say no in any. I don't think you can ever say no in anything in life. You know, 1 minute you could be working in a factory, next you could be offered a job doing something else, and you're going to say no, I'm always going to work in a factory all my life. No, you're not. But I love being at the football club. I don't really have to, you know, stipulate how much the club means to me. I don't really want to be even thinking about doing something else. I want to be in and around the first team, and at the moment, of course, flying high at the top of the division helps massively, but even if we weren't, you know, I still love my position here and what I do, and you know, they say I do a bit of everything these days, so I just take it all in my stride.
So you mentioned the first team there, and we're top of the entire Football League at Christmas, which takes a bit of getting used to if you've been around the club a while like you have, and I've been supporting for many, many years. Have you been surprised by the success that we've had in the Championship?
I think everyone was a little bit apprehensive to start with, just because we hadn't been in the champ for so long. Was it nearly 20 years? And the fact that majority, if not all by about 2, hadn't actually played in the championship level. Or if they had, it had been 1 game or maybe 2 games. It was only really Elliot Ward, Andrew Sermon. I can't think of anyone else who might have played championship football, outfield players anyway. So it was new to us, and I think last season it was a learning curve, and then we had that massive run at the end, and we went from 15 games from the end of the season, people saying, oh, we'll survive, we'll be alright, because I think we were sitting maybe 15th, 16th in the league, to talking about getting in the playoffs, within a space of about 6 weeks. It was crazy, and I think we deserved to get in the playoffs. We just had that little blip where we just couldn't quite get over the line. But what an experience to have in your first season in the championship, and that's probably put us in good stead for what's happened up to now. Could we foresee us being top of the champ? Maybe not at Christmas. Did I think we would go one step further than what we did last season? Well, I hope so. That's what we've always done at this football club since the gaffer's come back. Well, since the gaffer was here first time around, and with the owner and everyone behind the scenes, we've always tried not to stand still and say, right, that was good, we've enjoyed that, that was a success. Yeah, it was, but then what's the next step? If you stand still in football, you'll go backwards. Simple as that. If you think you're content and you're happy and you've succeeded in what you've done, so even if it's just one tiny step at a time, we always strive to go forward, push to get that extra bit, and that's what's happened this season. The objective at the beginning of the season was to get in the playoffs, because that was the next step from last season, or to finish with more points at least. At the moment, we're on course to do that, but we're very level-headed, this football club, and that comes from the top, from the manager. So I'm not saying don't get excited to supporters. I just don't get excited myself. I'm a glass half full type of lad, but I'm a realist as well. And we're having this conversation, mate, at the end of April, and we're still in the same position, or middle of April. I might be really excited, but I understand how far there is to go in games and what can happen and the way football is in general. So I say to supporters, enjoy it, absolutely, because why shouldn't you? From where we've come from, we're almost going out of existence, 1 game from going out of existence 6 years ago, to where we are now. You have to enjoy it, but also keep a level head and your feet on the ground, and realise the company we're keeping in this division. There's some big teams around us, and it comes, like I say, from the gaffer, from JT, the owner, the chief exec, the chairman, Neil, Jeff Mostyn, Neil Blake. We love the fact that the team's doing well, but there's a hell of a long way to go. I sound miserable, don't I? Sounds like I'm not. I'm not. It's just, I know football can kick you in the teeth, and I know it can also give you the biggest highs and lows that you can ever imagine. As a supporter, as a player, it's the one sport that you'll be on top of the world 1 minute and rock bottom the next. So, I'm just, in the back of my mind, obviously the excitement's there. I'm just keeping it on ice.
Yeah, the cautious approach, particularly, I think, mentally, to think, we don't want to put the kibosh on it by presuming that this is it, we're going to go up, is inevitable because of where we've come from. And of
course, we have to look back.
Years.
Remember what we've been through in the last 15 years, even the 20 years I've been here. It's phenomenal what we've had to put up with and what we've went through as a club. That's why I said get excited, absolutely, enjoy it. You can't not, but also realise them times that we did have, and don't get too carried away.
Well, there's plenty of evidence, not just at our club but around football, that the success can be fleeting. That said, recent history anyway, shows that a team that's top of the Football League at Christmas has a very good chance of going up, and so you might feel you're going to put the hex on us talking about this, but do you think we've got the potential to survive in the Premier League, were we to go up?
Well, first and foremost, I don't like them stats. And that's come from a scout who looks at stats all the time on players, because, we have an analyst department, and one of the lads works for us, and he's showing us stats on players all the time. And you have to look at stats, because stats are great for footballers, and, with Opta, you've got, so many stats, and you can realise, what you've been watching and whether it was the right thing to do. And I mean, you can look at too many stats, I understand that, but these ones about finishing in the league and the ones who, it's like the Premier League, whoever's bottom at Christmas always goes down, or apart from one or two seasons, I don't like all that. You know, that just, to me, that people take that as a given. They go, oh, that's it, it's going to happen, yeah, because it's happened all the time in history. Them stats are there to be broken, so I don't like them. But could we survive in the Prem? Mate, who knows, why not? You know, we're not just a club who's just had a stroke of luck and then got, oh wow, we're in the Premiership. We've built the foundations properly. We haven't went and spent ridiculously. The gaffer doesn't want to do that. He wants to build a team. He wants to do it properly. So I think the infrastructure we've tried to build puts us in a better position than maybe other teams who have a similar sized club to ours, who maybe went up into the Prem, and it's not worked out for them. But you know, I don't know. I can't even contemplate thinking about the Premiership. I mean, it'd make my job harder trying to find Premiership players. Wow, imagine that. That'd be fantastic. But wow, what the pressure on that? You know, yeah, we know about the stadium. We'd have to adapt the stadium. You know, that people say, oh, we need a new team. No, we wouldn't need a new team. This team's fabulous. Of course, you need additions to the team, but you wouldn't need a new team. These players were, you know, before Eddie come back, we were fourth bottom of League One. Same players, bar one or two. So don't tell me players can't get better and adapt, and you can make them, you know, into top quality players. You can. Maybe a bit of experience of the Premiership you might need. People say, it's a question I get asked all the time, as you can expect from the position we're in, but whether I'm out shopping with the family or doing whatever on a Saturday night out having a few drinks, people come up, oh, we're not ready for the Premiership, we can't go, what, you're going to turn it down if it comes along? You're really going to turn it down? You ask any supporter, hand on heart, or anyone at the football club, if you had a choice, it's a no-brainer. You have to, because you just can't not turn down them opportunities if they come along. Or you wouldn't, sorry, not turn them down, because obviously you don't turn down the Prem, but you can't say you would never want it, because that's what you're aiming for, it's what you're striving for, surely. And you're not striving to be a middle-of-the-road team in the Championship, are you?
No, and you know, who knows when this opportunity will come around again.
Absolutely.
We're top at the moment, everything's looking really, really good. Next season is another season. You just don't know. You
don't know. So you take your opportunities and when they come along, and that's what we're all striving for. Surely, I mean, people say to me, like, "Oh, we're not ready to go up." I'm like, well, why do we keep training and playing the way we do? And everyone's striving to become better and better at the whole football club, from the top to the bottom of the football club. In every department of the football club, everybody's striving to be better and be the best at what we can be. Surely that's our aim, is to get into the Premiership.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you want to win every game, so the inevitable conclusion of that is if you do win every game, we haven't won every game this season, but if you do, you're going to go up, aren't you? Just looking to something that will happen in the near future, we've got a couple of games coming up against Rotherham, who are managed by your old manager, Steve Evans. Are you going to make it to either of those to see him again?
No, probably is the answer, because I'll be out scouting. But yeah, we've got him in the FA Cup and then a week later in the league, and it'll be a tough place to go. I love Steve Evans. You know, he's a controversial figure. You know, he is Marmite. You know, you love him or you hate him. And for me, I wouldn't be sitting out on this interview if he hadn't let me out my contract at Crawley. Simple as that. And I've said it in loads of interviews. But you know, when Eddie phoned him up, you know, the back end of 2008. I think it was December 2008, beginning of 2009 when Eddie got the job. When he hadn't let me out my contract, then I wouldn't be here now. Simple as that. I had 18 months left on my contract at Crawley, and it was only because he knew the love for my club, for Bournemouth, that even contemplated letting me out my contract. It's not as if he even wanted any money from me, he just let me out my contract. So without him doing that, I wouldn't have experienced the unbelievable 5 years we've had since then, or 5.5 years. It's incredible to think, when I was like nearly 37 years of age, what was round the corner. I tell everyone my career started when I was like 36, 37 properly, and my second coming here, you know, that the first game at home to Wickham, what was it, January the 23rd, I think, 2009. That's when my career started. 36-year-old. Crazy.
That was one of the things that started to turn not just the results around, but the mood around at the club. It was kind of a masterstroke by Eddie, and he's pulled a few masterstrokes since then to bring you back, because it felt that it gave everyone around the place a boost, because you had, like you said, a really good relationship with the fans, and people were happy to see you back. And then subsequently went on, and that was probably the most important season we've ever had, and you were key to the final game against Grimsby, and we stayed up, and it just seemed like things were getting back into order. Eddie was the manager. He was very much loved by the fans in his playing career. You were back, and then, well, everyone knows that ever since, things have rapidly progressed, and we've found ourselves today at the top of the Football League. Finally, I just wanted to ask you about being Steve Fletcher. And what I mean by that is, I spoke earlier about how you're in an unusual position for a footballer, because most players go from club to club, and they have decent careers, and everybody who makes it in the professional game, even if they just have a short career, it's a big achievement. For yourself, you spent around about 20 years at the same football club. You hold the record number of appearances. You've got a stand named after you. You've got your Running Man mannequin down in the...
It's a cyberkin, actually. A mannequin that moves is apparently called a cyberkin.
Do you get used to that? And obviously there is, for a person in your position, the public Steve Fletcher, and then you've got your own life away from that with your family and stuff like that. Is it something that you get used to, or do you sometimes think, I can't believe that my life's worked out like this?
I think a bit of both. When you get used to it, you don't get used to it as in the fact, you expect it. It's nothing to do with that, because there's nobody more grateful and thankful, and I have the adulation for people who give me adulation. I'm like, I play everything down, and I can be out on a Saturday night and people are on pitches and chatting to me and singing my name in pubs, and I'm playing it down. I actually walk out, but then I turn around the next breath and I think, wow, that's amazing to think I was a kid who just running around the streets of Hartlepool and thinking I just want to be a professional footballer, and then other times thinking you're going to be a nobody and nothing's going to happen. I mean, I absolutely buzz off it. It is amazing to me, and I don't take it for granted 1 minute, because even less now, because that could easily go with me not playing football anymore. But I think because I've always put myself out to talk to people, and I said whether it be out on the streets or at the football club or wherever, and I've always made a conscious effort. It's just the way you're brought up, isn't it? And I think football back then was different as well. So I was a quiet young lad from Hartlepool who came down, and I've always been brought up the right way to say the right things, do the right things. Very complimentary to people, always thankful for things, and I think supporters appreciate that, because if you put your time and you put the time in, and you put yourself out to make a bit of an effort, that means more to them sometimes than being the best player on the football pitch by a million miles and not really having much communication with them. I think that's why my rapport with the supporters here grew and grew, because it was difficult in the first couple of seasons. We came down and goals weren't happening, performances weren't happening, and I didn't really get on with the fans too great. I was very torn, and then just slowly but surely changed, and that's when my love for the football club arose. So it is, sometimes I do pinch myself and think, wow, it's still the age of 42, you're still a firm figure with the supporters. But I'd like to think I put a lot of effort into that myself. It could have went the easy way, it could have went the other way just as easy. I think that the fans appreciate the fact that I do love the club. I put everything into it, and it's give and take, isn't it? In any job, in any walk of life, you can't just expect it all. You've got to give something back, and I'd like to think I have give as much as I possibly could back. If I could have changed things on the pitch, of course I could have. I would have. I would love to have been a better player, a better goal scorer, but I was what I was, and I give my best as much as I could. Would I change many things? Absolutely. I'm not one of them people who sits down and goes, I wouldn't change anything. I'd change hundreds of things, thousands of things, on and off the pitch, but I can't. So, I've got to work with and be appreciative of what I've had and what I got. I have many times I sit at home and say, what if I'd done this, what if I'd done that? And you do. I think you look back and you think, I wish I'd done that at that time of my career, or I wish I'd put more effort in and been more professional, or I wish I'd concentrated on my football more than other things that were going to, you can eat yourself up and beat yourself up. And like I say, I would change a lot, but then I've got to be thankful for what I have had. I've been very fortunate. I've been very fortunate managers who've liked me at the football club, because I could have easily not, and then I'd have been like a journeyman, like you said, going from club to club. And it was only in the latter stages of my career that I really had a few more clubs. I went to Chesterfield for one season, then Crawley for 6 months, then on to Plymouth. They're great times, and sometimes you've got to experience them to appreciate what you've got now. But if it was up to me, I would never have moved. It wasn't my doing. I didn't want to leave the football club after 15 years. But then when I came back in 2009 after being away, I think that's when I appreciated it so much more. That's why I played every game like it was my last. I probably played the best football in my career in them 19 games when we stayed up. Best football in my career at the age of 36, nearly 37, which is crazy, because I'm playing for someone who I love, and Eddie. Back at the place I always never wanted to leave, and I think you just appreciate something you lost, and you've got an opportunity to get it back, one more chance, and obviously trying to help keep the club in the Football League. And from 2009 to now, is really all the main memories I've got. Of course, Millennium Stadium and my hat-trick, and we walked out of Wembley, but apart from that, the rest can be a bit of a blur. Breaking the club record appearances, away to Bradford, the big things, the record-breaking things, of course, they stand out, but actual football on the field, the games and the effort and the passion and the team camaraderie, and I can only really remember the last 5 years of my career, because they were the most important, and the ones probably I enjoyed the most. Crazy, isn't it? Because you think you'd remember the stuff that you did when you were younger, when you were supposedly playing your best football. Not for me. My main memories of this club now is, apart from them iconic moments and personal achievements, my main memories is on the football field. Game after game was from 2009 till I retired, and that's what will probably live with me forever.
Well, Fletch, I think I probably speak for the vast majority of Bournemouth fans.
Not everyone.
By saying that we're all delighted that you're still around Dean Court, and we hope that continues for many more years. So thanks for coming on the show, and have a very Merry Christmas.
And to yourself, and thanks for having me. Brilliant, thank you.
Brilliant to speak to Fletch, and I'm doubly grateful that he found time to talk in the middle of what appeared to be a very busy day.